This slide shows the possible origins of neural systems in animals. This is just for fun. I won't ask you anything about it, but if you want to know more, the link will take you to the article this figure came from. Two body systems work to control, coordinate, and integrate the activity of animal cells. These are the nervous system and the endocrine system. In general, the nervous system is used when something needs to happen quickly, like perceiving a predator and getting away from it. The nervous system generally deals with short-term changes in physiology. The endocrine system works more slowly and promotes more sustained changes in physiology. Hormones and the endocrine system will be covered after we go over sensory reception and muscle function. Two groups of animals completely lack nervous systems, and these are sponges and a marine organism called placozoans. You're probably familiar with sponges, but placozoans are tiny. They only grow to about 2 millimeters in size. But both groups are multicellular. Sponges and placozoans can respond to stimuli, and their cells are able to communicate with each other through chemical signaling, but they completely lack neurons, synapses, and muscles. All other animal groups have nervous systems. The simplest nervous systems are nerve nets and are found in cnidarians and echinoderms. These are shown in panels A and B here. Nerve nets are a system of interconnected neurons, and they do not have cephalization, meaning they lack a concentration of neurons in a brain, but they may have ganglia, which are clusters of neuronal cell bodies. As such, they do not have a central nervous system. Animals with bilateral symmetry, which are shown in panels C through H, have increased centralization of neurons in nerve cords and cephalization. That is, they have an anterior brain. The nerve cord and brain form the central nervous system, and the peripheral nerves, which are sensory neurons and motor neurons, form the peripheral nervous system. The functions of all nervous systems is to collect information about the external and internal world. The senses perform this function, and we'll discuss these in a few lectures. Sensory information needs to be transduced into a form that can be used by the nervous system, which is the process of turning receptor detection of a signal into a change in the number of action potentials generated by sensory neurons. That information is encoded and conducted to the central nervous system. Encoding can take many forms, which we will discuss along with sensory function. The conducted information is received, processed, and integrated by the central nervous system. After integration, the central nervous system sends out information to act or move and/or to initiate a change in cellular activity or status quo by signaling glands, smooth, or cardiac muscle. Let's review general neuron structure. Neurons receive communication input from other cells on dendrites and the cell body. The cell body houses the machinery of cell function with parts such as the nucleus, the Golgi apparatus, ribosomes, and others. The axon leaves the cell body from the axon hillock. As we'll see in a future lecture, this structure is critical for the initiation of action potentials. Action potentials travel down the axon to the synaptic terminals. This is the startle response circuit of a cockroach, and it shows the steps involved in the functioning of the nervous system nicely. Stimulation of the sensory hairs on the tail will generate action potentials. That information is transmitted to the central nervous system, which is the nerve cord in this example. After integration, the appropriate effector, the leg muscles, are stimulated and the animal is able to run away. A schematic of the process is shown at the bottom of the panel. In general, stimuli are detected by sensory receptors, and sensory neurons convey the detected information to the central nervous system, which processes that information and sends messages through neurons that connect with effectors so that movement or other actions are performed to maintain homeostasis. The vertebrate nervous system is composed of afferent neurons which conduct information toward the central nervous system. They are sensory neurons that are receptive cells or connected with sensory receptive cells. They have a peripheral axon that extends from the receptor to the cell body and a central axon that extends from the cell body to the central nervous system. The cell bodies of the sensory neurons can be found in dorsal root ganglion outside the central nervous system. Afferent sensory neurons are sensory receptors, like is shown in panel A, or synapse with sensory receptive cells, as seen in panel B. A peripheral axon extends to the cell body. The cell bodies are found in a ganglion, which are not shown here. The central axon then extends from the cell body into the central nervous system to form synapses with interneurons in the central nervous system. Interneurons are found in the central nervous system and integrate incoming peripheral information to coordinate peripheral responses. Interneuron cell types are diverse and can be classified using a combination of criteria based on morphology, connectivity patterns, synaptic properties, protein marker expression, and intrinsic firing properties, as shown here. This slide is meant to show you the diversity of interneuron types. Do not worry about learning the specifics shown here. But if you'd like to know more information, the link will take you to an article that this figure came from. Efferent neurons usually have their dendrites and cell bodies in the central nervous system, and their axons project to the effector organ or tissue. Most cartoons of generalized neurons are efferent neurons, like the motor neuron shown here. The cell body is in the central nervous system, and the axon extends to the effector organ or tissue. This is a schematic of a simple neural circuit showing the different types of neurons we just discussed. Sensory afferent neurons collect information and send it to the central nervous system for processing. Interneurons interpret the incoming information and send signals to efferent neurons to bring about the appropriate response to the stimulus. Note that axons can also be called fibers. This is a simple neural pathway that only involves one interneuron located in the spinal cord. These simple circuits are usually reflex arcs that allow the body to respond to potential danger quickly. We will discuss reflex arcs with muscle function. But note that neural pathways can be quite complex. This is a simplified visual network. Visual sensory information is transferred to the brain via the optic nerve. Various areas of the brain are involved in interpreting this information. You can see that it takes multiple layers and multiple cells within each layer to process and recognize what you have seen. We haven't even gotten to deciding what the appropriate response to the stimulus should be. You may have heard of machine learning or deep neural networks. This is using technology and programming in an attempt to replicate and understand what our brains do.